All right. It is 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to ask our 8 judges to turn on their cameras really quickly. Great. So let me just take a little roll. See, Caroline, James, Andrea. Where's Andrea? Deeksha. There's Deeksha, Ellie, and Sam. Okay. All right. And our competitors, are you guys there? You're the more important group of people. Will, Patrick, and Will and Patrick are your second chairs here as well? Great. All right. So let me introduce our 8 judges for this 2025 Trial by Combat play-in final round. All 8 of our judges are either coaches or Drexel Klein students or soon to be Drexel Klein students. And I'll sort of get into that in a second. So let me start with Brian Walker. Brian Walker is a rising 2L at Drexel Klein. He is at Drexel Klein on a courtroom scholarship. And before that, he was an All-American competitor from Georgia where he competed at trial by combat twice, including finishing in 6th place in 2023 in Philadelphia. Vijnan Gill is an award-winning competitor from Fordham, and he is the only competitor that is not currently a Drexel student because he'll be starting in just a few months as a courtroom scholar at Drexel. Caroline Albert is an All-American competitor, or not an All-American competitor, Caroline, sorry, but I'm about to compliment you. I can't get any of these intros right in any of these rounds. These people think I can't talk probably. All right, let me start over. Caroline Albert is an award-winning competitor from Columbia, where she competed on the AMTA circuit. She's also here on a courtroom scholarship. She is a rising 3L, just finished her 2L year, and she competed in 4 tournaments this year. And in 3 of those tournaments, she finished in the finals or competed in the finals, including 2 weekends ago, winning the Amicus Cup National Mock Trial Competition. James Bray is an AMTA alum from the University of South Carolina, where he was an all-national attorney. He is a rising 2L at Drexel Klein and is also here on a courtroom scholarship. Andrea Subterrelu is an award-winning competitor from UT Knoxville. She was the president of her program, and she is also a rising 2L and courtroom scholar at Drexel Klein. Deeksha Walia I can't, it's really hard not to say. After I said Brian was an All-American, it's very tough to not say that. Deeksha Walia is an award-winning competitor from Maryland. She was at Drexel on a courtroom scholarship. She is currently a coach, and while she was a student at Drexel Klein, she was the only competitor in Drexel Klein history to win AAJ regionals twice. Ellie Wallace is an All-American from the University of Delaware. She was a Top Gun second chair, and currently she is a coach at Drexel Klein, where all of her teams have finished in 3rd place or better. And last, and certainly not least, Sandy Giuseppe is the Associate Trial Competition Director at Drexel Klein. She has been a Top Gun second chair. She has been a semifinalist at the Tournament of Champions, which is the biggest law school invitational. She was the best advocate at Tyler Regionals in 2020, but her real claim to fame is that she was my first student back in 2018. She's going to be our presiding judge today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sam and ask our other judges to turn their cameras off. Good luck, everyone.
All right, everyone. A few housekeeping matters for my benefit before we begin. Will your witnesses be keeping time, I assume? Okay. And then is there a rule in this competition as to when we take a break, if we take a break?
It's not set, Your Honor. If
Okay.
you would like a break, the plaintiff's good with that.
Okay. We'll probably if we're rolling, we'll just roll through mid-trial and maybe we'll do a break before closings, but we'll see how we feel. All right. All right. All right. So I am calling the case of Cacciapoli versus First City. Plaintiff, can I have your appearance, please?
Yes, Your Honor, good afternoon. My name is Patrick McDonald. I'm joined today by my second chair, Miss Abby Davis.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Together
Good afternoon.
Together we represent the plaintiff in this case, Miss Julia Cacciapoli.
All right, defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. My name is Will Mueller, and today I represent the defendant, First City, here in California.
Okay. There's no housekeeping in this jurisdiction. That's my understanding, but do we have any other pretrial matters to address?
None from the plaintiff, Your Honor.
None from the defense.
All right, plaintiff, you can open whenever you're ready.
Thank you. May I have just a moment to set up?
Sure, take your time.
Thank you.
Mr. McDonald, I'm going to turn my video off so that you have the full attention, okay?
Sounds good, Your Honor. They knew the risks, but they chose the revenue. And a child paid with her life. Members of the jury, today you'll hear about a 6-year-old girl, Dora Cacciapoli, who died in a shark attack that never should have happened. You'll hear that she died because this defendant, the city that ran the beach, knew the risks of a shark attack, but chose the tourist revenue they'd get from keeping the beach open. It's July 4th, 2022. And a woman named Julia Cacciapoli and her 6-year-old daughter Dora have just flown in from New York City to see the beautiful beaches of California for the first time. They kick off their sandals and they breathe in the salt air as they run to the water. They're excited. But across the beach, the city's mayor, Miss Chris Weems, is worried. She's talking to a shark expert and her chief of police. You see, the city has had 2 fatal shark attacks in 5 days. And the expert and her police chief are telling her, Mayor, it's too dangerous. You have to close the beach. But the mayor's not listening. She says in response, we're a summer town. We need summer dollars. The beach will stay open for business. Members of the jury, we expect you'll learn in trial today that the day after Mayor Weems said those words, Dora Cacciapoli died in a shark attack on the exact same beach the mayor was told to close. They knew the risks, but they chose the revenue. And a 6-year-old girl paid with her life. That's why you're here. Because Dora's mother, Julia Cacciapoli, has brought a suit against First City, California for creating a dangerous condition on their city beach. But today, we're not just going to tell you that. We're going to prove it. We have to prove 4 elements. First, that the beach was in a dangerous condition because there was a shark in the water. 2, that the dangerous condition caused Dora's death. 3, that the city knew or should have known about it. And 4, that they had enough time to take measures to protect against it. If we prove each of these elements by a preponderance of the evidence, which means more likely true than not, then you must find the defendant liable. Members of the jury, we're going to meet that burden today by walking through 3 risks the defendant knew and ignored. First, that the city had a great white shark near the beach. Second, that the shark had killed before. And third, that it was still there when Dora entered the water. So first, the great white. In trial today, Dr. Dana Schott, an expert on shark feeding behaviors, will tell you that about a week before Dora was attacked, a different beachgoer died from injuries consistent with a great white shark attack. Second, the great white had killed before. You see, just 5 days before Dora died, you'll hear that a second beachgoer died in a different shark attack in the same city. You'll hear the city caught a tiger shark after these 2 attacks, but Dr. Schott will explain that she told the mayor the killer was a great white shark, not a tiger shark. Third, the great white was still there. Eyewitnesses will tell you that the day Dora died, the city did something they had never done before. You'll hear they had extra police and shark spotters both on the beach and out in a boat looking for a shark. As you listen to the evidence today, ask yourselves a very simple question. If the city didn't know there was a dangerous shark on the loose, then why did they hire dozens of people to look for one? Instead of heeding these 3 warnings and closing the beach, you'll hear that the city chose to leave it open. Open to lure in tourists like the Cacipolis. Open to chase money at the expense of human life. They knew the risks, but they chose the revenue. And that's why, at the end of trial, we'll ask you to find the defendant, First City, California, liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Mueller, whenever you're ready.
Yes, Your Honor. Their response was reasonable. It's July 1st, 2022. A warm summer day right here in California. A crowd of people are gathered on a pier. They're staring at a shark, at an 11-foot-long, 1,000-pound shark. But this shark, it's not in the water. It's been caught. And now that it's been caught, the city can welcome people back into their water, but not without taking precautions. There's going to be a patrol boat in the water. There's going to be trained shark spotters watching the water. Before June of 2022, South Beach had never seen a shark attack, and they're committed to keeping it that way. But on July 4th, just a few days later, the unthinkable happens. Another attack, another victim. What happened was horrible. But the evidence will show it wasn't the city's fault. Their response was reasonable. But today, the plaintiff is suing the city. They have to prove that the city knew the beach was dangerous. But as the judge will tell you, even if the city knew its beach was dangerous, if they took reasonable steps to keep it safe, well, then they can't be blamed when something goes wrong. Today, we're going to give you 2 reasons to find for the defense. The beach was safe, and the city took reasonable steps to keep it that way. So let's start with that first reason. The beach was safe. Members of the jury, you're going to get a chance to see a photo of the beach yourself. You're going to see that there are no big waves, no sharp rocks, and no sharks. You'll learn that's for good reason. You'll learn that before June 2022, sharks on South Beach were unheard of. Shark attacks were unheard of, literally. The evidence will show the beach had never seen a shark attack before. The evidence will show the beach was safe. Which brings us to the second reason we're going to ask you to find for the defense. That the city took reasonable steps to keep its beach safe. Now, plaintiff just got up here and they told you that there was a shark attack in June of 2022. That's true. But you're going to learn that in response, the city took reasonable safety steps. You're going to learn that a city can do one of 2 things when they have a shark attack. They can either shut down the beach or they can kill the shark. The evidence will show that the city did both. They closed the beach. They caught the shark, and when it was time, they reopened the beaches. In fact, I want to introduce you to the person who was responsible for the city's safety measures. Ms. Williams, could you turn on your camera? Members of the jury, this is Krista Weems. She's the mayor here in First City. Some of you might even recognize her. She's been in public service for years because she cares about her community. Thank you, ma'am. You can turn off your camera. You're actually going to get the chance to meet her today. She's going to tell you about the safety steps the city took, how she hired a dozen police officers to patrol the beach, how she hired trained professionals to be looking at the water. She's also going to be upfront with you. When the city was deciding whether to keep the beaches open, they considered the costs. They considered whether it would cost the city money. Not because that's all they cared about, but because they had to. Because they were being careful. In his opening statement, the plaintiff asked you a question. They said, if they didn't know there was a shark in the water, why did they still take those safety measures? Members of the jury, I'm not going to make you wait. I'm going to answer that question right now. Because they were being safe. Because they were taking precautions against something that could happen even if they didn't think it was going to. They were being cautious. Members of the jury, I want to be clear. What happened on July 4th of 2022 was terrible. No parent should ever have to live to see their child die, let alone in such a violent way. But today, it's your job as jurors to separate the tragedy from the facts. And the fact is, the city did what they could. Their response was reasonable. That's why I'll come before you at the end of today's trial, and I'll ask you to find the city not liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Plaintiff declared first witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Dr. Dana Schott. May I proceed?
May.
Thank you. Good afternoon, doctor. Can you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Dana Schott.
What's your involvement in this case?
I was retained by First City to consult about whether a series of fatalities on the city's beach were connected with shark attacks. I advised the city on the risks.
Do you know the victim in this case? Dora Cacciapoli?
I pulled Dora out of the water the day she died. I was on the beach. I saw the shark.
We'll talk about what happened the day Dora died in just a moment, as well as the risks that you advised the city about. But first, I want to discuss your background. Do you have any qualifications that let you give advice about shark attacks?
My PhD is in marine biology, a specialty in shark biology.
Do you work in that field?
Yes, I'm the director of the Shark Research Program here at the Oceanographic Institute.
As a director of the Shark Research Program, have you published in the field of shark biology before, doctor?
I've written several peer-reviewed articles on shark biology, migration patterns, and feeding behaviors.
In this case, did you have sufficient facts and data to form a conclusion?
Yes, there were 3 fatalities on the city's beach. I personally saw shark attacks on 2 of them. I reviewed the remains for the 3rd.
Did you use reliable principles and methods when conducting your analysis?
I did.
And doctor, do you have any experience identifying shark bite marks?
Yes. We start by looking at the shape of the shark tooth and the size of the bite size for a different shark species. Then we consider the size of the bite, the depth of the wound, and the character of the wound, whether it appears to be shredded or punctured.
In this case, did you reliably apply your training and experience to the facts you reviewed?
Of course.
Your Honor, the plaintiff moves to tender Dr. Schott as an expert in the field of shark biology.
Okay, any objection to that field of shark biology?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, she is so tendered. Go ahead.
Doctor, I want to start at the very beginning and explore the weeks leading up to Dora Cacciapoli's death. When did the defendant, First City, contact you?
The morning of June 26th, 2022. Chief Palki called and informed me about a fatality on the city's beach.
You mentioned a fatality. Was that Dora, the victim in this case?
No, this was 9 days before Dora died. Chief Palki wanted my opinion on whether a tourist fatality was connected with a shark attack. I examined the remains.
When you examined the remains, can you describe what you saw?
I was looking at the victim's head, her right arm, her left forearm, and her torso. I saw large, deep puncture wounds.
Were the wounds that you saw consistent with a shark attack?
Yes, the victim had what we call sharp force injuries. Those are consistent with a shark attack. Although, of course, I couldn't rule out possible other causes, like a boat propeller.
After this first casualty you're discussing, the one on June 25th, were there any others?
There was a second casualty on June 29th. Chief Palki and I were on the beach when it happened.
What happened? Did you see it?
I did. A boy screamed, and something dragged him under the water. I then saw a shark's dorsal and pectoral fin surface right next to the victim before he was dragged back down again.
Doctor, besides seeing shark fins, did you see any other evidence that this was a shark attack?
The victim's raft washed ashore. It was bloody. It had a big chunk taken out, consistent with a shark bite. We never recovered the victim's body.
Doctor, if a city has 2 ocean fatalities in 5 days, are there any steps they can take to prevent against shark attacks?
Objection,
Yes.
Your Honor. Calls for an improper opinion. May I explain?
Sure, go ahead.
Your Honor, this witness has been tendered as an expert in shark biology, not as an expert in city safety. For them to ask this question about what kind of steps the city could take to prevent further attacks goes outside the realm of her expertise as a shark biologist.
Response.
Yes, Your Honor. We've laid sufficient foundation for the doctor to make this opinion. She's researched in the field of shark biology for decades. She has her PhD in it. My question is just, are there any steps you can take to prevent a shark from attacking people? I expect that she's going to go on to say that you can kill the shark, and you can also close beaches to prevent people from going into the water to get attacked by the shark. Certainly, she has the foundation and requisite knowledge to be able to make that opinion.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Sure, go ahead.
Your Honor, my recollection of the question was that they specifically referenced what the city could do, the steps the city could take, and that is certainly outside the scope of her expertise because she's not been tendered as an expert in city safety, just in shark biology.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Last word, go ahead.
She doesn't need to be an expert in city safety to describe the risks that sharks can pose to people on the beach. The only opinion I'm asking for is that if you kill a shark, if you close the beach to prevent people from going into the water to be near the shark, that's a step that you can take to reduce the risk of a shark attack, which she's studied for decades.
May I
Mr.
respond?
Mueller, no. Mr. Mueller, I'm going to overrule your objection, though I do think it was a well-founded objection. So, Mr. McDonald, I would caution you to make sure your questions stay within the realm of this expert's expertise, but I do understand the facts you're going to elicit with this question, so I'm going to overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. Doctor, are there any steps that can be taken to mitigate the risks of a shark attack?
Yes. If a shark's attacking people, you can either kill the shark or you can cut off its food supply, shut down the beaches.
Did you convey that information to city officials?
Yes, I told the police chief and Mayor Weems that we could kill the shark or shut down the beaches.
Let's start with that first option, killing the shark. Do you know if the shark that you saw on June 29th was ever killed?
I don't know. Some fishermen brought in a tiger shark, but tiger sharks aren't expected in the waters around First City, and I never heard anyone say where this shark came from. I advised that we cut open the shark, see if the victim's remains were inside.
Were you able to open it?
No, the mayor wouldn't allow any examination on the shark.
I want to discuss whether there were any other ways that you might have been able to tell whether it was a tiger shark or something else that was causing these fatalities. Is there a difference between tiger shark bite marks and great white shark bite marks?
Yes, there is. I made a chart to explain this.
Your Honor, permission for Dr. Schott to display her chart.
Sure. Is this a pre-marked exhibit or is this something you created?
It's something we've created, Dr. Schott has created to help explain her testimony. It's not going to come into evidence.
Okay. Did you show this to opposing counsel and discuss this with him pre-trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Mueller, no objection to this?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then go ahead.
Doctor, what are the differences between a great white shark's bite and that of a tiger shark?
Great whites have triangular teeth and a bigger bite size. They tend to leave large, clean puncture wounds. Tiger sharks, they have pointy teeth and a smaller bite size. They tend to leave many small lacerations, which can lead to wounds looking shredded.
What are the wounds on the first victim, the one you found on June 25th? What do they look like?
While there was some shredding, I found it didn't exactly match the characteristics of a tiger shark bite. Instead, the majority of the wounds were large, deep, clean puncture wounds. I found that this was most consistent with a bite from a great white shark.
Did you relay that information to city officials?
Yes. I told the police chief and the mayor about this bite science.
Did you inform the city that tiger sharks don't usually go near South Beach?
I did. I told them.
After you explained the risks, what did the mayor say?
She said, we're a summer town. We need summer dollars. If the beach is closed, we're finished. This was on July 3rd. She said, tomorrow's the 4th. We're going to be open for business.
What happened after the mayor said, we need summer dollars, we're going to stay open for business?
The city reopened the beaches.
What happened on July 4th?
A shark attacked Dora. I was on a boat. I saw the shark charge and bite Dora.
Did you see what kind of shark it was?
Yes. I saw it in the water. I saw it bite her. I saw it swim away. It was a great white.
Thank you, Doctor. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
You may.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
I want to start by talking about how you got involved in this case. You were asked to consult by the city on a possible shark attack, right?
That's correct.
On June 25th of 2022, a woman's remains washed up on the beach, right?
That's right. That was the first fatality.
As part of your analysis, you examined her body, right?
I did.
You thought that she could have died because of a shark attack, true?
Yes, she had large, deep puncture wounds.
But you weren't sure, were you?
Not 100%, no. But I found that it was consistent with a shark attack.
That's right. On direct examination, you said that great white sharks make marks just like the ones on her body, right?
Not quite. I said that she had large, deep, clean puncture wounds, and that great white sharks leave large, deep, clean puncture wounds.
But ma'am, to be clear, you marked her cause of death as undetermined, didn't you?
That's right.
Now, after you finished your analysis, you ended up staying in town, right?
I did.
On June 29th, you actually saw a shark attack on South Beach, right?
Yes.
Boy was killed.
Yes, the second fatality was a 12-year-old boy.
And after that incident, the city closed its beach, right?
For 3 days. Yes.
That's right. And then after 3 days, they reopened the beach.
That's correct.
So I want to talk about whether the city took reasonable steps to ensure it was safe before they reopened. Now, ma'am, you know that the mayor actually took safety measures, right?
What do you mean?
She hired police officers to patrol, right?
That's right. We thought a great white was in the water.
She hired a dozen police officers.
Yes, she did.
She hired shark spotters to monitor the water, right?
That's correct.
3 of them.
Yes. I thought
Ma'am.
there was still a great white in the water.
And ma'am, those shark spotters are people who are trained to actually look in the water and see if there are any sharks, right?
That's right.
But you didn't think those steps were good enough?
No. We had a great white shark in the water that had killed 2 people in 1 week. That was not enough.
That's right, ma'am. It was your conclusion that a shark was actually in the water, right?
I believe that was likely.
You went to the mayor and you told her that, right?
Yes, I told her we have a great white.
Ma'am, as an expert, you know that your conclusion should be based on evidence, don't you?
Absolutely.
You know that conclusions should be backed up by evidence.
Of course.
Ma'am, when you went to the mayor and you told her that there was still a shark in the water, you didn't show her any evidence, did you?
No, that is not true. We had 2 fatalities at this point. I had the analysis from my examination, and I had pictures of further shark damage.
And was it your testimony you had pictures of sharks in the water?
No, further shark damage. We found a boat that appeared to have been damaged by a shark.
Ma'am, you didn't show the mayor any GPS tracking showing there was still a shark in the water, did you?
No, we did not have a GPS on the shark.
Didn't show any sonar readings?
No.
Tissue samples from the water?
Tissue samples?
That's right.
We had the mutilated tissue of 2 fatalities.
Ma'am, I'm not asking about the tissue of the people that died. I'm asking about the tissue of a shark. And you didn't have that, did you?
No, the shark was still out there.
You're telling us that the shark was still out there, but you don't have any photos of it in the water, do you?
The shark that killed Dora?
The great white shark.
No,
Don't have any videos.
no,
Didn't have any reported sightings to show the mayor. True?
no, just 2 dead bodies.
So, ma'am, let's be clear. When you went to the mayor and you told her that there was another shark besides the one they had caught, she had to take your word for it?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Response?
Your Honor, there's nothing argumentative about the question. When this witness went to the mayor, she relied solely on her own personal analysis. Your Honor, if the witness disagrees with the question, she can say so.
I'm gonna sustain the objection. Go ahead, counsel.
So, ma'am, when you went to the mayor, you didn't have any forensic or physical evidence to actually show her, did you?
That is not true. I had my analysis of the first fatality. I had the medical examiner's analysis of the first fatality. I had my analysis of the shark bites on the victim, my analysis of the second victim's raft, and the data about the likelihood of tiger sharks versus great white sharks attacking people.
And I understand you presented your analysis on the victims. Right now, I'm just talking about physical evidence, proof that there was another shark in the water. And you didn't have anything in that regard, did you?
No, I did, sir. Autopsies are physical evidence.
Ma'am, I'm not asking about the autopsies of the body. I'm asking about photos, videos, reported sightings of another shark in the water, and you didn't have that, did you?
No, I didn't have a recording of the shark.
Well, then let's talk about whether this accident was foreseeable. Now, we can agree that shark attacks are rare, right?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, I'm showing the witness Exhibit 3. It's already in evidence per stipulation.
Go ahead, counsel.
Ma'am, this is a chart showing the rates of shark attacks in the state of California, right?
There we go.
Yes, this is.
So let's start by taking a look at the last 5 years. Ma'am, in the last 5 years, there have been 29 reported incidents, right?
That's correct.
Only 3 of them resulted in a death.
That's true.
Let's take a look at the totals. Not including this case, there have been 215 total incidents, right?
That's right.
Only 16 deaths.
That's right. 2 deaths in a week is unheard of. That's how I knew we had a great white.
And that's a yes, only 16 fatalities.
For the entire state of California, yes.
Before this case, you can't tell us that a single one of these incidents involved a great white shark, right?
No, I do know. All 16 of these fatalities involved a great white shark.
Ma'am, you can't tell us that at South Beach, there was an incident involving a great white shark, right?
That's also not correct. I know that a great white shark killed Dora, and I have evidence that a great white shark killed the first 2.
Ma'am, I understand that's what you're claiming in this case. I'm talking about before this case. And you can't tell us that before this case, there was a great white shark seen on South Beach. True?
Before the first fatality?
That's right.
That's correct.
Thank you, ma'am. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. And prior to redirect, I'll be screen sharing Exhibit 3. It's the same exhibit that Dr. Schott was just testifying about.
Sure, go ahead.
Dr. Counsel just asked you a bunch of questions about this exhibit. Did he show you the bottom part when he was asking questions?
No, I think the paragraph at the bottom was cut off.
In the bottom part, does it say how many of the fatalities he was mentioning involved great white sharks?
Yes. If you zoom into the very middle, it says all fatalities involved great white sharks.
On July 1st, 2022, did First City ever catch a great white shark?
No, they caught a tiger shark.
What did they do after that?
They reopened the beaches.
Thank you, Doctor. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Plaintiff, do you have any additional witnesses?
No, Your Honor. At this point, the plaintiff rests.
Okay. I think we should keep going and maybe take a break before closings. Is that okay, or do you guys want a break now?
We're good to keep going, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll keep going, and then before closing, I'll give you both a nice break. All right, so defense, call your first witness.
The defense calls Krista Weems. May I proceed?
You may.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Please introduce yourself to the members of the jury.
Hi, my name is Krista Weems.
What do you do for a living?
Currently, I serve as the mayor of First City. It's my final year in a 4-year term.
How long have you been in public service?
God, most of my adult life. I love this community. I served on the city council for a little over a decade before joining the board of trustees. After spending years working with the people of First City, I knew I needed to run for mayor to make sure their voices were heard.
Can you tell us a bit about First City?
Of course. First City is this lovely little beach town right here in Southern California. Year-round, we have about 4,000 residents, but in the summer, with tourism and visitors, our population swells closer to 6,000.
Ma'am, does First City have a beach?
It does, yes, South Beach.
We're showing Exhibit 2. Ma'am, what is this?
This is a picture of South Beach.
Does it look fair and accurate as of July 2022?
I'd say so.
We offer Exhibit 2 into evidence.
Any objection?
None, Your Honor.
All right, submitted.
Ma'am, I want to take a look at what is and isn't on this beach. Do
All
you
right.
see any big rocks?
Objection, Your Honor, to relevance. May I be heard?
Sure, go ahead.
Your Honor, our claim today is very simply that First City failed to respond to the threat of a shark attack. Whether or not there are other threats on the beach just does not matter. That is not at issue in today's case.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Sure.
Your Honor, the plaintiff has to prove a dangerous condition. So it's relevant whether there's anything else on the beach that was dangerous. So far, all we've heard about are sharks, but I'm making sure there isn't anything else that might have presented a danger on that beach.
Well, counsel, I don't think they're arguing there's anything else dangerous, right? I mean, plaintiff, is it your contention that other than the sharks, there was anything else, any other dangerous condition on the beach?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, the objection is sustained.
Ma'am, could we take down Exhibit 2? Now, have you been in court with us today?
I have, yes.
Have you heard the plaintiff say that the thing that made that beach dangerous was that there was a shark in the water?
I heard them say that.
Ma'am, did you know there was a shark in the water?
Of course not.
So what did you know?
Look, what happened that summer was awful. It pains me to this day that 2 children died that June, but before that summer, there had never been a shark attack at South Beach. Never. And after what happened with Paul Parisi, we did everything we thought we could to make sure there wouldn't be another attack to happen.
Before we get into the events of this case, I want the jury to get a sense of just how common these shark attacks actually were. We're showing Exhibit 3, and again, Your Honor, already in evidence. Ma'am, are you familiar with these statistics?
I am, yes.
How about any data relating to South Beach specifically?
I know that there was one shark attack after 2022.
Then I want to put this information together for the jury. Your Honor, we're going to display a visual aid that shows the number of shark-related incidents based on the information found in Exhibit 3.
Counsel, before you do that, I just want to double check. Did you show this to your opposing counsel before trial as well?
We did, Your Honor.
All right. No objection, Mr. McDonald?
None of this time, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead.
So, ma'am, how many shark-related injuries were there before July 2022?
I believe there were 132 combined injuries and fatalities.
How many were at South Beach?
There was just one in June of that year.
Were you here when the plaintiff said there might have actually been 2 attacks?
Yeah, I was.
Were you ever shown any evidence of that?
No.
So then let's talk about that incident on June 29th. Do you know what exactly happened?
Yeah, that's when Paul Parisi died.
Were you at the beach when he died?
I was. I was actually there with my daughter when it happened. I heard screaming, and it became clear right away that something terrible had happened in the water.
So what did you do?
I closed the beaches immediately.
Ma'am, how long did you keep the beaches closed after that incident?
We kept them closed for 3 full days, June 29th, June 30th, and July 1st. I mean, during that time, we were just trying to gather information about what had happened and whether there was any ongoing threat.
Ma'am, during that time, was a shark ever caught?
Yeah, on July 1st, fishermen caught a tiger shark, and frankly, I was relieved. I thought the threat was gone.
After that shark was caught, what did you decide to do?
After discussing it with the chief and others, we believed that the threat had been removed, so I made the decision to reopen the beach.
to speculation, we believed that the threat had been removed, that there were other people besides the mayor.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yeah, go ahead.
We don't believe the witness is referring to other people when she says we. She's the mayor of the city. We believe she's just referencing we as in the city.
I agree. Overruled. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ma'am, were you finished with your answer?
Yeah. After speaking with the experts, I made the decision to reopen the beaches on July 2nd.
Were you here for the plaintiff's opening statement?
I was, yeah.
Did you hear the plaintiff say that you shouldn't have reopened that beach because there was evidence there was another shark there?
Objection,
Yeah.
Your Honor. The question assumes facts, not evidence. May I be heard?
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Mueller's question referenced another shark at the beach. That assumes that the first shark that was caught, the tiger shark, was caught at the beach. On cross-examination, I'm going to show that tiger sharks don't typically go anywhere near first beach, that it could have been caught anywhere, and that Mayor Weems didn't ask to find out where it was from. So to say another shark at the beach implies a fact that's not yet in evidence.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Sure.
Your Honor, that question, frankly, was just based on my recollection of their opening statement earlier in trial. That's what I heard them say.
Yeah, Mr. McDonald, did you say that in your opening statement?
I don't believe so, Your Honor. I don't believe I used the phrasing another shark. It's our contention that the tiger shark wasn't caught right there at the beach, so I don't believe I would have had a reason to say it.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Sure, go ahead.
Frankly, we're also confused on what the issue is here. It's undisputed, agreed on by both parties, that there were two sharks, that there was a tiger shark that was caught in the water, and that there was a great white shark after the fact. So frankly, we're confused on what their issue is here.
Yeah, Mr. McDonald, I think I'm a little confused also about your objection. So why don't you explain a little further?
Yes, Your Honor. We don't know where the tiger shark was caught. Mayor Weems saw it on a dock in First City, but she was actually told, and Dr. Schott told her, and she testified about this earlier in trial, that tiger sharks typically don't go anywhere near First City. In fact, I'm going to ask Ms. Weems on cross-examination and prove that tiger sharks typically don't go even within 100 miles of First City. There was a bounty for a shark at the time, and we believe that the fishermen found that shark somewhere. We don't know where. It could have been hundreds of miles away and brought it to First City. And then Ms. Weems just didn't ask where it was from, but took it as if it was from the beach.
Mr. Mueller, can you just repeat your question for me so I can hear it again? If you
Yes, Your
remember it.
Honor. I believe it was where you hear when the plaintiff said there was evidence there was another shark in the water.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. McDonald, is it your contention that there isn't evidence that there was another shark in the water? Are we fighting that?
I have no objection to another shark in the water, but another shark at the beach I would have an objection to. I may have misheard what Mr. Mueller said. I'm good with the phrasing that he just gave.
Okay, I'm gonna overrule the objection. Mr. Mueller, we're gonna strike everything and you're gonna re-ask the question the way you just said it. Is that good with everyone?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead.
All right, ma'am, were you here when they said that there was evidence there was another shark in the water?
Yes.
Did you personally see that evidence?
No. The oceanographer said that she found a tooth somewhere, but she dropped it in the ocean, so that made it sort of hard to rely on.
So then I want to talk about whether you took any steps after the incident to keep the beach safe. Did you take any precautions?
Of course. We stationed over a dozen police officers to patrol the beach perimeters, and we also paid 3 shark spotters to watch the water from the shore as well.
Ma'am, what are shark spotters?
They're basically people who are trained to spot sharks in real time and then respond when they see them.
Well, how about in the water? Did the city take any precautions there?
We did. We kept a constant line of communication with Dana Schott, who was patrolling the water in her boat.
Then, Mayor, I have to ask, if you were aware that there had been a shark attack earlier in the summer, why didn't you just close the beaches for the rest of the summer?
Frankly, that seemed a bit extreme. I mean, we'd killed the shark, and the experts couldn't show me any concrete evidence.
To a lack of foundation, Mayor Weems just said they killed the shark. as if it was the shark that had killed the first two fatalities, there is no foundation to support that claim.
Uh, I think we understand, or at least I understand what she's referring to at this point. So I'm going to overrule the objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ma'am, could you finish your answer?
Sure. I mean, at the time we'd killed the shark. The experts couldn't show me any evidence that there was another one out there. So, I mean, closing the beach would have hurt the city in a pretty significant way.
How so?
We're a small summer town. The city's businesses, they depend on tourism. And I was worried that closing the beach when I didn't have any evidence right in front of me that there was another shark, it would have hurt our community.
Thank you, ma'am. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. May I just have a moment to set up?
Sure, take your time.
Thank you. May I proceed?
You may.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Weems.
Good afternoon.
On direct examination, Mr. Mueller asked you a question and I wrote it down. He asked, did you know there was a shark in the water on July 4th, 2022? Do you remember that?
That's right.
And you said, of course not. Is that true?
That's right. I had been shown no evidence that there was one.
Despite saying today, of course you didn't know there was a shark in the water on that day, you hired 3 shark spotters, right?
That's right. I mean, it was preventative. We wanted to make sure that after Paul Parisi's death, there wasn't another attack.
Despite saying today, of course I didn't know there was a shark in the water, you hired 3 people specifically to look for sharks in the water. Is that correct?
Of course. Well, I didn't think there was another shark. It's my job as mayor to make sure we're still taking precautions, and that's what I did.
Despite saying today, of course I didn't know if there was a shark in the water back then, you hired a dozen police officers that day, true?
That's right. Again, it was preventative.
You had a patrol boat in the water looking for sharks, right?
That's right.
But Mayor Weems, you'd agree with me, as the mayor, you have the authority to do a little bit more than hire spotters and police officers, don't you?
I mean, the only other thing is that I or city council could close the beach.
Right, ma'am, you could unilaterally close the beach by yourself, right?
That's right.
But on July 4th, 2022, you chose not to secure tourist revenue. Is that right?
Not necessarily. I mean, you're right. There was a financial aspect. Closing down the beach would hurt hundreds of small businesses and ruin our economy. But I also didn't think there was that much of a risk at the time.
Ma'am, on July 3rd, 2022, the day before Dora Cacciopoli died, you said, I'm going to leave the beach open. I'm not costing my people thousands of dollars. Those were your words, right?
That's correct.
I want to see if there were risks associated with that decision to keep the beach open. And let's start at the beginning on June 25th, because that was the day the first body washed up on the beach shore, right?
That's right.
You personally reviewed a police report discussing that incident, right?
I did, yes.
Ms. Davis, could we get that police report on the screen? Your Honor, this is Exhibit 4. It's already in evidence. And Mayor Weems, this is the police report you reviewed, right?
That's right, yes.
If we can pull up the third to last paragraph here. You said on direct examination you were shown no evidence that this first incident was a shark attack. Those were your words, right?
That's right.
Despite that, here it says that your medical examiner said, the last line underlined there, this incident was suspicious for a shark attack, right?
That's right. But after speaking with the doctor, he said he didn't believe it was a shark attack.
It said the doctor said the injuries were shark force injuries. That's on the screen, right?
That's right, which could be caused by a multitude of things, like a boat propeller or even a reef.
It says right there, a boat propeller or teeth, such as the bite marks of a large animal, right?
That's right.
Mayor, you reviewed this document on June 28th, right?
I did.
All right, let's fast forward one more day to June 29th. That was the day of the second fatality, right?
Yes, Paul Parisi.
You're actually, as you told us on direct examination, at the beach when Paul Parisi was killed, right?
I was.
You saw his raft drift ashore, true?
That's right.
A chunk of it was missing, ma'am,
That's correct.
covered in blood.
It was.
You saw that on June 29th, right?
I did.
That was the second body to wash up on the shore of your beach in 5 days, right?
That's right, which is why we put out the search for the shark. We put those precautions into place.
And so you closed the beach for 3 days. You told us on direct examination, right?
That's right.
Then you opened it back up to the public on the 4th day, right?
That's right. We had caught what we believed was the shark.
Mayor, I want to discuss whether it was reasonable to believe that what you caught was the shark. Because you caught a tiger shark on July 1st, right?
That's right. Some fishermen did.
Your shark expert told you that tiger sharks usually don't go within 100 miles of First City, right?
She said it was unusual. Yes.
Despite being told tiger sharks don't usually go within 100 miles of your city, you didn't ask the fishermen where they found the shark, did you?
Well, that same expert, Miss Schott, actually told me she believed that the tiger shot had killed the two people, so I took her word for it.
Mayor, you were present for Dr. Schott's testimony earlier today, right?
I was, yes.
You were here when she said she believed there was still a great white shark in the water, right?
That's right.
You were here when she said she told you that there was still a great white shark in the water, right?
That's what she said, yes.
On July 1st, 2022, when you caught that tiger shark, Dr. Schott, your shark expert, asked you to inspect it, right?
Well, she wanted to cut the shark open to see if Paul's body was in there in front of the entire city, and obviously I said no.
You said in front of the entire city. Mayor, when she said that, when she asked to cut it open, no one else was on the dock. True?
The dock is in front of the beach where all the tourists are. People would have seen it, and I couldn't put them through that.
No one else was on the dock, right?
Standing next to the shark? No.
You didn't offer to move the shark before inspecting it, right?
No, I told her she couldn't do it there. I don't know what happened to the shark after that.
You told her she couldn't inspect the shark at all, right?
That's right, because we were on the dock where the people were.
Let's fast forward 2 more days to July 3rd. That was the day before Dora Caciopoli died, right?
That's correct.
On that day, you reviewed statistics about shark attacks in California, right?
I did, yes.
Would you recognize those statistics if I show them to you now?
I'm sure I would.
Ms. Davis, could we get Exhibit 3 up on the screen? And Your Honor, this is again pre-admitted. Mayor, you reviewed these statistics the day before Dora Caciopoli died, right?
That's correct.
You can see at the bottom that it says that all fatalities involved great white sharks, right?
That's correct.
Mayor, that document lists every single shark attack listed in California from 1950 until the present day, right?
That's right. And like I said earlier, there had never been a shark attack in South Beach, which is why when we caught that tiger shark, we assumed that that was what had done it.
In over 70 years, every single shark fatality had been caused by a great white shark. That's what you read, right?
Fatalities, yes.
But on July 1st, after a shark fatality and another body washing up on shore, after you caught a tiger shark, you opened the beach back up, right?
That's right. Like I said, the expert told me she believed that the shark had killed Paul and Francesca, and we didn't have any evidence that there was another shark. So I made the decision to open the beach.
Directing you back to my question, you opened the beach back up on July 2nd after catching a tiger shark, right?
That's right. The shark that I was told killed the two people.
2 days after you opened the beach back up, Dorothy Caciopoli died from a great white shark. Is that true?
That's correct.
Your Honor, no further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, may I proceed?
You may.
Point of
Ma'am.
order, Your Honor. I believe that defense is out of time. Oh, sorry. No, wrong time, Your Honor. My bad.
I was going to say we're in trouble if we're out of time for closing. All right, go ahead, counsel.
Yes, Your Honor. Ma'am, you were just shown that data. And you're asked about how it only shows great white sharks. Why did that data make you think there wasn't a threat on July 4th?
Because if there had been a great white shark, we would have seen it, but we caught a tiger shark.
Objection,
And,
Your
and
Honor,
once we caught
speculation that if there was a great white shark, they would have seen it.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Sure.
Again, I believe she's testifying to the scope of what the city knew and what the city uncovered.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Yes, Your Honor. Motion to strike.
Granted.
Ma'am, why specifically did that data make you think there wasn't a threat?
because we found a tiger shark, and the tiger shark is what we thought killed Dorothy and Paul.
So then I want to give you a chance to answer a question that the plaintiff has asked in this trial. Ma'am, if you didn't think there was a shark in the water, why did you have shark spotters on the shore?
Because it was preventative. We wanted to make sure that given what we knew, we could solve an issue before it happened. We did the best we could.
Thank you, ma'am. No further questions.
All right, defense, do you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor. The defense rests its case in chief.
Great. All right. We are going to take a 5-minute break. And we're going to get a time check as well. So do we want to take our break before we time check, or do we want our time check now?
Time
They
check.
may have to calculate. We'll give them a few minutes or not a few minutes, a few seconds here, and then we'll take our break.
The plaintiff has 7 minutes and 59 seconds for close, and the defense has 7 minutes and 13 seconds.
All right, 7 minutes for you both. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break. We will come back here at 4:07. How's that? All
Sounds
right.
good.
Closing argument from the plaintiff, Your Honor.
Yes, let's make sure we have our other advocate here. There he is. All right. We both ready? All right. Go ahead, Mr. McDonald, whenever you're.
Yes, Your Honor. They knew the risks. They chose the revenue. And a 6-year-old girl paid with her life. Members of the jury, there's one thing that everyone in this courtroom agrees on, that this case was a tragedy. But what Mr. Mueller and I don't agree on, what we can't agree on, is that the reason it's so tragic is because it was so avoidable. This case shouldn't have happened. We shouldn't be here. Because every step of the way, the city could have avoided this tragedy if they just listened. First City, California was told the risks. And we're here in court because they just kept on looking the other way. Members of the jury, when our government officials are warned clearly, urgently, repeatedly that their beach is dangerous, that there is a shark in the water, that it could kill again, the law requires them to protect human life. Not prioritize the economic impact, not save the dollars, not hope for the best, not assume the danger is gone. When human life is on the line, we expect our city officials to protect it. That's the duty this city ignored. Because when bodies were pulled from the water with injuries consistent with a great white shark attack, when a little boy is ripped from his raft with the city's mayor literally watching, when they were shown convincing evidence that the tiger shark they found wasn't the killer, they chose to keep the beach open anyways. I expect that in a moment, Mr. Mueller will speak a lot about the mayor's testimony today. But Chris Weems's words from July of 2022 speak louder than her words from the witness stand today ever could. Remember what she said back then. We're a summer town. We need summer dollars. Tomorrow is the 4th of July. The beach will stay open for business. Members of the jury, it doesn't matter if you're a summer town. It doesn't matter if you get the dollars you expected, because you can't chase revenue when you're shown risk after risk after risk of a deadly shark attack. But that's exactly what this defendant did. That's why Dora's mother has brought a suit against First City, California, because there was a dangerous condition on their beach that they failed to remedy. And to prove our case, we had to prove 4 elements. First, that the beach was in a dangerous condition. Second, that the dangerous condition caused Dora's death. Third, that the city knew or should have known about the dangerous condition. And fourth, that they had enough time to take measures to protect against it. And as I explained at the beginning of trial, we had to prove those elements by a preponderance of the evidence, meaning more likely true than not. In trial today, we met that burden by showing you that the city knew the risks. And I want to walk through the 3 risks that the city ignored. First, that they had a great white shark near the beach. Second, that it had killed before. And third, that it was still there when Dora entered the water on July 4th. So first, that there was a great white near the beach. Firstly, you heard the testimony of Dr. Schott today, that she examined the bodies of one of the casualties and found that the wounds were consistent with a great white shark bite, not a tiger shark bite. She told you that she relayed that information to the mayor, and the mayor on cross-examination today admitted it. They were told that a great white tooth was found. Every fatality in the state of California going back to 1950 had been a great white shark attack. Mayor Weems reviewed that information on July 3rd, the day before Dora died. She saw that in the last 72 years in the entire state, every single shark-caused fatality had been by a great white shark. But she just decided that the tiger shark they caught 2 days prior, that was probably the one that caused the 2 fatalities. And it's not as if she wanted to know, ladies and gentlemen. Because if she actually wanted to know whether it was the one that caused the fatality, she could have done what her expert asked her to. Her expert's on the dock asking her, please, can I examine this? And Mayor Weems says not just, no, you can't open it here, but no, you can't open it at all. There was evidence there was a great white shark. They knew it. And there was evidence that it had killed before. Two dates are very important in this case, ladies and gentlemen. The first is June 25th. That's the day the first body washed ashore. You heard that the mayor reviewed a police report where her own medical examiner told her that it was consistent with a shark attack. And then secondly, on June 29th, the mayor is on the beach as the second shark attack occurs. She's literally there as the raft comes to the shore. She's literally there to see the chunk that is missing, it gushing with blood. What does she do? She closed the beaches for 3 days. You saw the statistics yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Shark attacks are incredibly rare. They made this point. There were 16 going back 70 years. There were 2 in the 2010s alone. You'll have that evidence in deliberation. There were as many shark attacks in this one town in California in 5 days as there were in the state of California in a decade. And they chose to open the beach after 3 days. And that brings us to the third risk they ignored, that the great white was still there on July 4th. The evidence showed that the killer was a great white. The only shark they had brought on shore was a tiger shark. Their shark expert told them the shark is likely still there. The mayor didn't care. The mayor either knew that the tiger shark was the wrong one or didn't want to know. Because when she was told, you can confirm whether or not this is the right shark, she said no. When she was told that tiger sharks are typically 100 miles or more away from the city, she didn't ask the fishermen where they caught this one. She didn't ask them whether it was right off the beach or dozens of miles away. Because her concern wasn't with the safety of her people, ladies and gentlemen. It was with getting the beach back open. And the first excuse that she could take to do that, she took. And she just stopped asking questions. She knew the risks, but she chose the revenue. Find the city liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Mueller, whenever you're ready.
Yes, Your Honor. Their response was reasonable. 75. That's how many years it's been since the state of California started keeping track of how many shark attacks happen on their coast. 75 years. And in those 75 years, there's one attack. One attack on South Beach. But the plaintiff wants you to think they should have known that there was going to be another one? Should have known that after they pulled one shark out of the water, there was actually another still in there? Where's the jury? That's just not reasonable. But I want to be clear. The fact that there was a shark in that water, the fact that someone died because of it, is horrible. Tragic. But the evidence has shown it wasn't the city's fault. Their response was reasonable. Now today, it was the plaintiff's job to prove that the beach wasn't safe that day. They had to prove that by a preponderance of the evidence, meaning more likely than not. And the judge will tell you that even if you think the plaintiff met their burden, if the city took reasonable steps to keep that beach safe, well, then you've got to find for the defense. And today, we gave you 2 good reasons to find for the defense. Let's start with the first reason. The beach was safe. As the judge will explain, the plaintiff had to prove that there was actually a dangerous condition on the beach. Now, let's state the obvious here. Oceans are dangerous. People can get cut by coral, can get pulled into a riptide and drown, can get slammed into rocks. But this case, plaintiff hasn't made it about those ordinary dangers. They've made it about one specific danger: shark attacks. So let's take a step back. Let's talk about what evidence you might expect to see when someone's trying to prove that sharks make a beach dangerous. How about data, statistics? Statistics showing the shark sightings, encounters, attacks. Members of the jury, this is the data that you actually saw. Now, all throughout trial, the plaintiff gets up here, and again, they get up here in their closing argument, and they try and say that this data is good for them. That because all these attacks were great white sharks, that means the city must have known, should have known, that a great white shark was in their water. But they've got it wrong. The fact that all these attacks were great whites and that the city still had never seen a great white shark in their water makes it all the more reasonable for them to think the shark in their water wasn't a great white. And members of the jury, that's why they focus so much on the first time in the city that someone saw a shark attack. You learned what the city did in response. You learned that they took reasonable safety measures. But the plaintiff, they get up here and they say that there just had to be another shark in the water. The tiger shark could not have been the one that actually killed that girl. Their expert took the stand and told you that she went to the mayor, gave the mayor evidence that there was another shark in the water. But remember what we learned on cross-examination? She didn't have any forensic evidence, any GPS tracking, any videos, any photos, any reported sightings, nothing. And I want you to remember, members of the jury, that this case, it's not about what we know now. It's about what they knew then. And with no other sightings, with no other reports, with no other concrete evidence, they had no reason to believe there was still a shark in the water. They haven't met their burden. So when you're shown this verdict form, you can mark no next to question 1. But there's a second, separate reason to find for the defense, and that's question 3 on the verdict form. That's whether the city took reasonable steps to keep its beach safe. I want to be clear. We don't have to prove that the city was right. We have to prove that the city was reasonable. Precautions, not perfection. You heard about the precautions they took. They put a patrol boat out in the water. They hired shark spotters. They had an expert literally in the water. But today the plaintiff wants you to think those precautions weren't good enough, that they should have just closed the beaches. But for how long? I mean, what's the end point here? Until they pull every shark out of the Pacific Ocean? Until they examine every inch of the ocean floor for evidence of shark activity? It just doesn't make sense. And today the plaintiff, they've asked you a question. They said, if they didn't know that shark was in the water, why would they still take those precautions? So the jury, their argument here just doesn't make sense. It's like if the emergency room fired their doctors because they thought no one was going to come into the emergency room that day. That's not how it works. You still need the doctors, and you still hope that no one has to come into the emergency room. Those precautions were exactly that. Precautions. Members of the jury, I want to be clear. What happened to that little girl on July 4th was horrible. It never should have happened. We agree. When something so tragic happens, it's easy to want to point the finger at someone else. When you took your oath as jurors, you promised to do something that's not easy. You promised to separate sympathy from the liability. Find the defense not liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Any rebuttal, plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor, may I proceed?
You may.
Members of the jury, why do you put shark spotters in the water? Why do you put a patrol boat in the ocean to watch? Because you think there's a shark. Mr. Mueller wants you to believe that the beach was safe, but it so obviously wasn't. A 6-year-old girl lost her life, and the city's actions that day proved they knew it. Mr. Mueller needs you to believe that the city took reasonable measures. But folks, paying a bunch of people to watch for a shark just doesn't cut it. When you've got a gas leak, you don't watch it until it blows up, you replace the pipe. When you've got a forest fire, you don't hire people to look at it, you evacuate people. When there's a shark in the water, you don't wait and watch, you close the beach. They didn't. They chose revenue and ignored the risks. Find the city liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Excellent job. Just give us a few minutes to submit our ballots and we'll let you know when it's all clear.
All right, Sam, I have everybody's ballot, so you can start.
Oh, I'm muted. Do you guys want to come on the screen so I'm not on the screen alone? We have our competitors. Oh wow. Really incredible job to both of you. I was so impressed. Understanding you guys are never trying this case again, and you obviously want to know the outcome. I'm not going to give you any constructive feedback. I just want to say I would be thrilled to have either of you compete on Drexel's trial team. I was so impressed by your advocacy, and best of luck to both of you. If any of the other judges want to offer any comments, go ahead. But as a reminder, these competitors will not be doing this case again, so we're going to keep it very brief for you both. Great job.
I was just going to say, I really appreciated how responsive you both were. That's like obviously super high level stuff. And I felt like you really got into kind of attacking the logic of the other side's arguments. And it was just really enjoyable and a really high level round. So thank you.
I was gonna echo that exactly. Like the responsiveness was really great on both sides. I think for Patrick, I thought specifically bringing up the statistics again in its full version and being like, opposing counsel only showed you this part is really great. It's a little cheeky, it brings the jury on your side, like, hey, why didn't they do that? But I thought for Will, the part that was really great was on your redirect of your witness being like, opposing counsel's been asking this one question throughout the entire trial. Let me give you a chance to answer it. I thought those two moments were really great, like responsive moments that really are like the difference between like, lower level mock trial and like really, really great mock trial. So yeah.
I'll just say that I thought you both had really great attention to detail. I thought you guys really picked up on a lot of the smaller parts of the case and really incorporated that in both your statements and into your examination. So it was really nice seeing this case get fleshed out all the way.
Diksha, I'm going to start calling on people to move this process along. Diksha, tell them what you thought.
I was gonna keep it short and let them move to get the results, but you guys were great. I love seeing both of you. I think my favorite part was definitely the responsiveness in the closings. You guys actually argued. What we don't see in closings a lot of the time is people just not actually arguing, but just restating the facts that were already heard. Like we got it. We know what the facts are. But you made analogies. You actually argued those analogies and showed why the other side's argument was not responsive or would just absolutely ridiculous. So you guys both did a really, really good job doing that. And I think that will really help you going forward.
James?
Yeah, great job, guys. I thought what I particularly liked was both of you had a good command of the rules of evidence. I think that both of you made pretty substantive objections that really impacted the other side, made them have to adapt. So kudos to you all on that. And great job. Whoever moves on, I know you'll do well.
Andrea?
I think this was a great example of how two competitors with very, very different styles can both excel. Patrick, you were obviously like very fast, quick, assertive. Will, you took on that slower, more calm and collected route, and you both really excelled at it. So keep going.
Yes, I second that. Last but not least, Miss Ellie.
Hey guys, I will be really brief because I know that all you care about is who won. I echo what everybody said about being reactive. I also wanted to call out that both of you were really excellent at controlling on cross. And this was a good round to see it in because you had one witness, the good doctor, who was a little more feisty, and the other witness, the good mayor, who was, seemed very reasonable, very calm, cool, and collected. And you both really adapted your control styles to match where the witness was. So I really appreciated that. Both of you were great. Good job.
I think that's my turn, right? Congratulations to both of you. I think everybody watching this probably knows, but just in case you don't, for trial by combat, we are selecting 22 competitors out of the hundreds and hundreds of competitors in the country, 8 to compete in this play-in, and then 14 who are pre-selected to go to Philadelphia in 2 months. So this is as competitive as it gets. And not only were these two selected, but they won their semifinal this morning. So they beat one of those other 8 competitors to get to this final round. And I feel like I say this every year, but it doesn't make it not true. I think this was our best final round in the play-in we've ever had. And hopefully the one in a couple of hours will be just as good. And I'm pretty confident that it will. Without further ado, the winner of this play-in final and heading to Philadelphia in 2 months is Patrick McDonald. Congratulations, Patrick. And congratulations to Will. Like I said, a great round. Won a trial this morning to be in our play-in final. And what a great showing. This was an awesome round that I think lots of people are going to watch for a long time. Congratulations to both of you.
Fantastic job, Will. Good job.